Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored. This is the Insoon brand jewelry store, a relatively recent release from them. I bought it from Amazon.com for $72 US, but that was with a sale, it's a sale price. So the regular retail price for this is $90. This has 1,933 pieces. The decorations are done with a combination of stickers and prints. And I will show you later on what the sticker sheet looked like so you can see just how much of it is which. First up though, a couple quick size comparisons. This is the Winery Chateau from the same company that I reviewed a few months ago. And there's the side view. The depth of this is a little bit odd at 22 studs, but the width of the base is 48 studs. And here's one of the all-time most beloved modular buildings on a 32 by 32 base plate. And there's the side view against it. One of the things I especially like about the design approach here is that not only is it closed up around the back, but it actually has some detail, some usable detail that looks nice even from a distance. They do reduce the number of pieces required to build this relatively unimportant backside by using these large panel pieces here, but then we do get the nice details for the windows, including printed panels in here, and these do easily open up to fully show you the interior, which is always lovely to see. It's a total shame when you have a whole lot of detail on the inside of a set that you just can't appreciate afterwards because it's all just completely hidden away. And in this case, not only do you have the easy access here, but you also have the lights. So they have a lighting system for both major floors here, which does allow you to see interior details, even from the front, even without opening everything up. This is one of the few cases with these alternate brands where there's been just a ton of gold, and especially that very, very nice painted gold that doesn't feel overdone. Like this is supposed to be a really, really posh place. You know, they call it a jewelry store, but it really feels more like an antique store, like a really high-end antique store to me. And I feel like the decorations are just appropriate for that and the level of just over-the-topness of it. One thing that was weird is the nice mirror over here has a sticker over it that goes over multiple pieces because it actually uses the painted silver pieces for the mirror pane itself. So they really didn't need to put a sticker over it. You know, it adds more detail, but you do have the option to simply leave those stickers off if you don't like them. Probably the stickers that most people will like least on the set are these. It represents an elevator, and there's the other up there. You know, so if you don't like those, just completely leave them off. It's very easy to do so. Chandelier, probably one of the most lovely things in the entire set that will be appreciated by a whole lot of folks. I don't know if I have the angle just right there right now, but I like the clear, kind of slightly frosted, clear colored egg pieces used all throughout. This was actually not that difficult to assemble, despite the fact that it does use quite a few pieces there. And it has some interesting pieces, like what I call the stud piece, or the Kobe stud piece, which you can see just right there. It's basically just a stud with a, it's like just the stud part of a stud. So it allows you to add a stud to an anti-studded surface, but they've got a number of them in there. They actually give you an extra piece to use as a tool for inserting those to make sure that it's not too difficult. Here, once again, you can see the use of stickers, and they do quite frequently use stickers over multiple parts in this set. Once again, if that is something that bugs you personally, I strongly recommend simply not applying them. Problem solved. But the details that are here, I think they look great. The sticker sheet itself is using a relatively soft vinyl, so it's easy to get those to flow over multiple pieces and to not have big bubbles or anything. You do see wires back there. All those wires are for the LEDs that are attached to the underside of the floor here. As a matter of fact, you can see one of the LED light bars right there. There are just 3 per floor. So that's actually the battery box there. I messed up. That's my mistake. And you can actually fully see the mistake right now. There's one battery box that is dark brown. There's one battery box that is just a dark gray. And those are swapped. My bad completely. They came in bags and they just looked identical to me when they're inside the bag. So I just grabbed one to build this. And then I realized that, oops. Yeah, once I got to the second one, I messed up on that. But the routing of the wires right there could be a little bit better, obviously. And also the fact that they are white, half of them are white, is not good. So being able to hide those away better definitely would have been a much better thing. However, they actually did take some effort put in some efforts to manage wires underneath here, unlike with the Chateau Winery set that I showed you just a little bit earlier that I previously reviewed. See, on this ground floor, there are once again 3 light units, but you don't have any wires that are really hanging down here, unlike with that last set. So this is actually a smarter design where the lights for this floor are powered by the battery up here, and they just kind of go through the floor. And then the lights for this floor are powered by the battery up in the roof. Again, I got the wrong color there, but it obviously will work the way that it's intended. And up along the top, you don't have wires that are hanging down. Those are managed pretty nicely. And specifically the ones on the roof are completely hidden away. It's just that these right there, those right there could have been routed a little bit better. Maybe if I made them go around the back, I think they would get slightly pinched, but because that is basically a table there, just a really simple table. You can just kind of have that angled out from the wall just ever so slightly. I think that would actually work as an easy way to mostly hide away those wires there. But the worst thing about this lighting system is that they just use 3 small little button batteries in each of these. They're pre-installed, they're ready to go, but they're not going to last forever. I think the maximum that you're going to expect to get out of these, if they're fully charged, like good quality batteries, is like a day of use, and then they need to be swapped out. So this is more of something where you would want to turn them on when you want to see the brightness and all the nice looking things. Thankfully, it's very easy to turn this one on right here. The one in the back, or the one on this level, you do have to open up, right? You have to access the switch right here. If they had made that available from the outside, it would have been nicer, so that, at least being able to turn the whole thing on and off from the outside would have been significantly more convenient. Thankfully, it's not too easy, or it's not, too difficult to take this battery box out, to at least loosen it from there, and then you can access the bottom, open it up, and then change out the batteries. Similarly here, this doesn't require too much disassembly. You want to take this upper section right here off, and then take just a couple of bricks off, and then you'll be able to get at that. But that is still something that has to be done. There's no USB option here. And again, it's just small batteries. They don't even have a connector. It's all pre-soldered, pre-installed. So no good option for a lot of use of the lights, unfortunately. Now, in terms of modularity and being able to take things apart, I already mentioned that you can take this top bit off, but you can also take the individual floors off. And this is something that I personally struggled with. I was just dealing with my usual sleep deprivation and stupidity. When I was building this live, when I was putting this on, I had a couple of errors with it. I like the fact that I don't have to worry about any wires going between those 2 levels. A couple errors with how I had built it, but also afterwards I messed around with it a little bit more to get a better feel for what's going on here. There is a little bit of warping with these parts. So previously, the Insoon sets that I've bought and built have seemed to use parts from Giestar, J-I-E, new word, S-T-A-R. This particular build right here seems to not use parts from that company. The bags are different. The feel of the parts is slightly different, and I mean very slightly different. These feel a little bit more like Go bricks, which is obviously a great thing. Definitely what you want. Go bricks are the best known, highest quality alt brick option out there, but they're just not quite there. And again, there is just a little bit of warping over these large areas, specifically because in this case, they have just one single layer of plates. Those of you who either built the Winery Chateau set or at least saw my review of it know that that one had stacks of plates, huge plates that you needed to push together. And that was rather difficult for a lot. Oops. Sorry about that. I just pulled that apart. Rather difficult for a lot of folks, because when you have a lot of plates with a lot of studs, it's just simply difficult to overcome the clutch power and the resistance of all of those pieces simultaneously. It's much better to use smaller plates. And what I'm doing right here is in real time getting all this to settle down. So you can see that there is a little bit of warping, and I'm having to kind of massage it back and forth to find the spot where it will just slot down in. So this particular build right here does not suffer from the thick stacks of plates like that other set did, but instead it suffers from the opposite problem: not enough rigidity in the plate. So there's a little bit of warping to the plate out here. You can see just a little bit, and there's a little bit of warping up in each of the floors as well. And there's not enough structure, I think, that kind of
maintains that boxed size where every corner is at 90 degrees. So it's just a little bit lacking there. And therefore, if you want to get this to be perfectly flat, to get all of the studs to line up to where it will all connect. So this corner is now down, and I just need this corner to go down. You do have to finagle it. You do have to massage it back and forth a little bit. I found that putting a little bit more force than I'm used to downward helped with that. But yeah, see, this right now is just not going right in. So I'll show you a close-up of this. There's just that small gap. I mean, I could easily just leave this as it is right now. Again, I don't need to have this perfect, but you know, a lot of people are going to want to have it perfect, and it should be able to be perfectly flat. So I'm going to have to sit here and kind of work that back and forth and try to find where the spot is. Do I need to move the upper floor in, like to the left a little bit? Or do I need to move it to the right a little bit? Do I need to pull the bottom floor towards me a little bit? Like where is the, there it goes. Perfect. There's the offset. I've gone back and forth on this a bunch of times, just testing it since I did have issues while I was building it live. I wanted to understand the problem better. And ultimately, most of the time, what I find is that the ground floor, the lower floor, is pinched in towards the top a little bit. So typically, I'll need to pull out, either back or out. So towards us, towards the outside in any axis, in any direction, always towards the outside. Open up the size of the top of it just to help those studs above to fit down. Obviously, that's not something that anybody wants to have to do. I'm just telling you, that is the work around here. That is what is necessary if you want to get these to fully flatten down and connect properly. That is probably the worst thing about this set and my experience with it. Otherwise, like the clutch power and the landing of each brick felt good, probably felt better than with the other Insoon sets that I've built to date, which is the winery and also one of their book nooks that use the Geostar pieces, as far as I can tell. Whatever company, I don't know if this is Xingbao, who it is, but this just feels a little bit better. All the metallic pieces are great. I did not have a problem with color consistency, and also the instructions were really good about showing you the colors of the parts. I did not have any confusion personally between dark brown, black, dark gray, and regular gray. And also regular brown. So that was really nice to see. They did a very good job in adjusting the colors in their instructions. I'll show you that just a little bit later on as well. A couple extra little details. This is a funny little cart. Does use stickers for its details, with the exception of that window. The clear pieces in this set all use prints. This tree, it doesn't have many leaves on it, but it was a little bit annoying for me to put together. Just, I don't know, I personally didn't enjoy it that much, but it's not bad. It's maybe a little bit fragile. Usually trees are pretty fragile. For as many leaves are here, it's not too bad. This definitely had some interesting pieces, some pieces you might not see from other brands. Some of them you might know from brands other than the Danish brand, but it's just, some different stuff that was good to see. This is actually a specialized part right here. They have a thick acetate style sheet that has a couple of prints on it. So you got that one, and then there's one other. This here is also a print. The silver is done just as well as the gold. Most of the time in this set, when you encounter gold, it's going to be that plated or painted color, not molded, not injection molded, which was nice. And those pieces go together so smoothly. It's such a strange thing because those painted pieces, they're thicker. They have more material on them, and yet they go together more smoothly, more easily, because there's just something about the texture and also the surface chemistry that just doesn't bind to other regular ABS pieces. I did have one issue with a part, and it was very, very early on when I was building this over here. I don't know how much of it was my fault, but ultimately one of those little bits of water broke. Just the piece just broke at the bottom. I'm assuming that I didn't observe it well enough, but I'm assuming that it was already a little bit damaged just in shipping or possibly in packing. And then as I was handling it, it broke off the rest of the way. So maybe partially my fault, but I think it was also partially just damaged in transit. I kind of like this I like the focus on the water over here. You know, it kind of feels like it's overflowing a little bit. Maybe it feels like it's overflowing too much, but it's better to have more of a suggestion of water than having it just be too stingy. Yeah, I just like seeing the trans blue there. Got a little cat over here. This company and its designers definitely like their cats. And of course, this is very minifig compatible. You know, you're seeing just regular sized things. Oh, here's one other thing that impressed me. This is totally uncalled for and just weird. Just such a strange decision, but I love it. These two doors, they're just mirrors of one another. And because it's a clear piece, and those are printed, because it's a clear piece, they easily could have just given you, you know, two of the exact same print, and you just have to turn one of them around. But they didn't do that. They actually spent the extra money to do a second print. So that is not the same print as this. It's mirrored prints. Therefore, the prints, rather than one of them being on our side, the other being on the far side, they're at the exact same distance and they give you the exact same surface texture. The print itself is very slightly matte, and you can see that over here. Yeah, you can see how the prints that are done in black there have a slightly different texture. And you technically could have noticed that over here if they had gone with just a single print, where in one case the print would have been on the back. You know, so I just appreciated them caring about that enough to make that difference. This set also has some colors that you might not be familiar with, such as whatever this is. It's like a light salmon color. This dark red is slightly desaturated. They also have a different green. So this is a regular dark green. There's another dark green, which I'm not seeing in front of. Oh, here. No, that's gray. It must have been in some of the interior details. There's another dark green that they have, which interestingly, I first encountered in their Book Nook set that I built from them, even though that used parts from a different manufacturer. I think it's this right here. I think this is the green. Yeah, it's a slightly desaturated dark green, like desaturated forest green, grayish green kind of thing. And oh yeah, it's here too. It kind of represents a velvet texture in this case. This is the sticker sheet, so it's a lot. Again, for people who hate stickers, leave most of these off, and you can clearly see that these large ones back here took up quite a lot of the space, and those were for the elevator detail on the back, which completely can be just ignored if you want. But there are a lot of ornate details, including some smaller things that do add up. Again, the instructions to me were just easy to follow. I mean, just even though I was not really with it, you know, I was quite discombobulated especially the second day of the build process for this. I still got through it. I did make some mistakes that were 100% my own, but I was able to correct them. It really wasn't a major issue, and I just didn't encounter problems with the instructions themselves. Here you can see how different they display. That's dark brown compared to the black here. And any place that there were multiple colors that could possibly be confused, I was not confused. I was very pleasantly surprised by that. I did not need to resort to using magnification or anything. Here you can see that darker green color compared to the black. There's definitely a noticeable saturation, even though it's a desaturated dark green. It just worked out well. And clearly they're using this particular style, which multiple companies do use, where parts that are already on the assembly are shown in a washed out color. In this case, they go with the light blue. Some will go with like a light gray, but that's just very consistent. And at least this set doesn't have any light blue pieces in it, you know, or medium blue pieces that are easy to confuse there. So I just didn't have any problem understanding what was what, and you know, the difference between a dark gray right here compared to a black. Even though these are separated by quite a bit, I can still clearly see the difference there. So they did a good job at picking the inks for this. This does have one errata page, so just a couple things where they suggested a better way to more safely put the parts together. A couple of the pieces that just aren't as I guess supported from the back. They're just saying put your fingers on the other side just to make sure that you don't push the whole thing straight through. It's just, you know, basic stuff, but shows that they were actually building the thing physically and trying it out. Probably even had different people building it, which is a good sign. And they recognized that, yeah, a little bit better instructions would help with those couple steps. Again, this retails at $90 US, shipped on Amazon for 1,933 pieces, which on paper just by itself already looks good. You include the fact that this has a fair number of fairly large pieces. It's not all tiny, tiny little things. And the larger pieces are mostly printed. All of these window panes are printed. But then, detract a little bit, subtract a little bit for the fact that it does rely on stickers for a fair number of important details. Add for the fact that it does include lights, subtract a little bit for the fact that the lights cannot be powered continuously via USB or something like that. They don't even have a particularly easy way to change out the batteries, and they do use relatively small batteries. But the size of this is impressive. The design is actually really nice. The access, the easy access is so nice. And it has windows all over. So even without the lights, let me go ahead and turn the lights off on this, turn those off, turn those off. Like, it didn't make a huge difference. At night and in subdued light, it definitely makes a noticeable difference. I forgot to mention that this back here, this Fresca, is done with an off-white color. It's a very, very light gray, a color that other companies are increasingly using, except for the biggest brand. It's just a lovely color that's really useful for all sorts of things. I wish we could get it for Star Wars and other sci-fi stuff. But even with the lights, so with lights dim in the room, it makes a huge difference, having the lights on versus not. But even with the lights, the electronic lights in this turned off, you can still see details. From this far away, you can still see the bright gold parts in here. You're still able to appreciate details from the outside without additional, lighting, without the lights actually turned on. And that's really important to me because, again, I really appreciate being able to see the details that I've actually spent money and time on. And here's so many of them you can do just that with, because they just have windows everywhere. That is so nice. The upper floor is that mezzanine style, so it's also letting some of the light that is coming in through these upper windows down to the ground floor. Obviously, you're not going to get as much light down there, but again, you can, open this up. And I can see that stuff. It's in shadow, but it's not in that much of shadow. So yeah, there's a lot of good going on here. I was very impressed by the size. It's significantly larger than I thought it was going to be. And if you can get it on sale like I did, $72 US, that is, for this much stuff, that is well within the cheap knockoff brand kind of range, to where you expect to get bad quality. You expect some pieces to not fit together. You expect to be missing some pieces. You expect some of the instructions to be wrong. Like $72, especially in 2025, late 2025, for this much stuff with prints too, doesn't make sense for something of this size. It really doesn't make sense. It should be bad quality. It should be, at very best, I would be impressed if it was acceptable quality, but it's good quality. It's not perfect quality. It's not the best. Oops, I just realized, dang it, this whole time I've had this piece rotated around too. Sorry about that. Hopefully that hasn't thrown too many people off. I know that perfection is expected, and I expect it of myself as well. And I do apologize for just not being able to deliver that to you guys much of the time these days. But this whole set does not deliver perfection, but it's really, really darn good. And I'm impressed. I like the approach with the lighting as far as how simple it is, how direct it is. No major wire routing, just a little bit of wire management right at the end of each floor. But the battery box situation still needs to be improved. Those batteries are too small. They do require a little bit of effort to get to. At least it's less here, but they still require some. They're not as common of pieces, and not being able to power this continually with USB, or at least some external battery box, is a negative for sure. But even without the lights, this is still impressive. I like it. It made me happy. It makes me happy, and I look forward to trying more newer stuff from Insoon, a brand that is clearly listening to feedback and improving their stuff rapidly. Good to see. Thank you for watching. I hope that this was of some value to you, and I'll talk to you again soon.